How are you? You all good? Good. Look, I'm all excited. This is the first step between the leaders in this very first house. How appropriate is that the Prime Minister of New Zealand is here to do our first press conference. It's very pleased and very excited about it.
Likewise.
Well, thank you once again. As you know, we just finished our
bilateral.
Firstly, our friendly discussions between ourselves, and then, of course, with the officials in matters of interest between Niue and New Zealand. As, of course, you're all aware of the 50th that we are celebrating this year of Niue being self-governant in free association with New Zealand. I think it's a partnership that has its own challenges on the way, but I tell you what, that partnership, Niue is so ever grateful for and appreciative of all the support and help that we have received from New Zealand. And our discussions is based on how we can strengthen that and iron some of those out in moving forward for the next 50 years. And I'm very excited to hear the vision of how the Prime Minister of his leadership and how he sees us moving forward. And that is great. If anything that comes out of these discussions that we had this morning, it's the line of communication and also the understanding of our unique agreement of that partnership, how we can elevate that to the level that it should be. I still think there's a room and more work there to do in the sense of that ongoing support. But what else that Niue also can do in order to help out or in order to deliver on that support? Because what we ask for, it's all about development of what deliver, what happens to Niue. But we also discuss also about when New Zealand prospers, that Niue will prosper as well. As you know, we're in a difficult where we are. We're isolated in the big blue ocean, but we do our very best in our own unique way in order to help ourselves. But basically, that's what we discuss about. It's all about the celebration of our 50th, the understanding of it, and the more the open line of communications between ourselves as leaders, as I already started since we met in Auckland last year, and not only with the Prime Minister, but I also have now a line of communications with the Governor General. So this is exciting times. I think what the Prime Minister of New Zealand and his vision and where they're going, I think it also reflects on what we're trying to do here as well. So these things can only be achieved if both parties will have that and work together, collaborate together in moving forward. So, Prime Minister?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you, Premier. Really appreciated our time together. Can I just say whakalofa lahi atu and tēnā koutou katoa to all of you here today. I just want to firstly acknowledge you and to thank you, Premier Tagelagi, for your leadership and also for the way in which you've hosted us and all of our delegation here, from yourself and the personal interest you've taken in my visit, for the friendship that we've been able to build since December last year and continue to build on in this visit as well. I've really appreciated a very warm welcome. It is a real privilege for me to be here celebrating the 50th anniversary of what is a very, very special partnership and relationship. And we spoke again this morning about the vision of how does Niue move forward, what more development, cooperation, what more can we do together, actually, and the ways that we can enhance the relationship. And a big part of that, as the Premier alluded to, is just making sure that we've got good leader-to-leader communication, which we've put in place since December last year and will continue to build out. We've also had a series of formal visits through the course of this year as we've upped the intensity to make sure that we've got the speaker through here with the speakers tour. We've had myself here. We've got Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters here in July. The Governor General will be here in October, and I want to see that level of intensity in our relationship with Niue, as I want to see it around the rest of the world, and all our relationships be lifted, and more engagement, more seriousness, and deepening of those relationships take place. It's been an excellent opportunity for myself to actually get familiar with Niue. It's a place I've wanted to visit for a long time. It's a real privilege to be able to come and spend a night here. I wish I could spend many, many more nights here. I feel like I'm leaving without having fully explored everything and seen everything, but that's a good reason to come back, which I look forward to doing. But it's just been a great opportunity to see the breadth of the relationship, and also to really appreciate the shared history and the connections between our cultures, our peoples and our economies. Very special to go through the museum. I was quite moved by seeing the World War I exhibit there, and thinking about that shared history and that contribution from Niue, and what that meant for the people and for those soldiers, and it was quite special. Looking ahead, we want to be a trusted partner, and we're going to continue to be great friends over the next 50 years as we go forward together, building on the past, but also looking forward to a future that we can actually shape and build together. One of the important ways we can do that is obviously by making sure that we're building on a sustainable future for all Niueans. With that in mind, and in celebration of the 50th anniversary, I'm very pleased to announce this morning that New Zealand will be investing almost $21 million in a new large-scale renewable energy project, so that Niue is able to generate 80% of its electricity from renewable sources. That project will kick off at the beginning in the first quarter of next year, and hopes to be commissioned by the end of next year. And that will make a big difference because, as you know, diesel is very expensive. It's good for the environment, it's good for emissions profile for Niue, but importantly it's actually a cost of living measure as well, as we get to a much better economic outcome with a cleaner energy source. So pretty excited about that investment, and obviously having seen the airport infrastructure that's been created and what that enables as a platform for further high-value tourism to take place here, as we've seen at the Matavai Resort as well. I think the future is incredibly bright for Niue, and I just want to say under your leadership, thank you for the passion, thank you for the ambition, thank you for the aspiration. It's exactly the values that I identify a lot with, and I think why we've become good friends in a short period of time. And we will obviously be releasing, Premier and I, a joint statement and to commemorate the occasion, and a clear testament, I think, of how both of us value this very special partnership and friendship as well. And with that, over to you, Premier. I'll take questions.
Thank you, and thank you for the support.
Any questions?
Premier, Niue is currently debating a number of constitutional changes, including changing your title from Premier to Prime Minister. Why do you feel that is necessary, and what do you say to people who say that's going to create some distance with New Zealand by changing those sort of things? And Prime Minister, has that come up in your conversations with the Premier?
Well, like everything else, we already started off before we embarked on that. I did write to the Prime Minister, of course the Governor General, in order to just tell them what we're doing here. Look, it's more to in line and with other titles around the region, especially around the world. Sometimes, in my own experience with the leader before when we went to these forums internationally, sometimes we're seen as a territory, premiers of a territory of another country. I'm not seen as a leader. And that's what it is. It's just, it's funny because if you reflect back into the Niuean language, it's the same.
Yes.
It doesn't mean Prime Minister, it's still in Palimia Niue, so whether it's Premier. So it's just for consistency of understanding.
As well, yeah.
So,
Premier was great. He consulted with me on those changes. To be honest, they look entirely sensible and appropriate. But ultimately, that's a decision for the Premier and the people of Niue. And so, I'm very comfortable. Yeah.
Me? Okay. With the development of infrastructure and tourism, that actually needs a workforce, which Niue actually is very short of. And the solar farm, for example, it keeps breaking down. There's problems with it, isn't there? So how can we keep developing Niue's infrastructure? So what initiatives are in place to try and boost up the workforce to make that infrastructure, like the runway, etc., work?
Yeah, well, with the PACER Plus project funded by Australia and New Zealand, we're working hard on the labour mobility and how we can kind of support from that for all our development aspirations and the like, and that at the moment is in progress. I think we already started recruiting from our neighbours, and then some more for the health sector and others as well. But I must say also, it's good to see our own people starting to return. I'm very pleased to see that 8 new houses have been built at the moment. These are all young professionals, which is great. It's a sign that development is happening here, and I think that they see home now as a place to live and work, but more so to contribute to their own country. So very pleased with that. The developments going on, and of course the numbers. Our population is starting to grow again, which is great to see, because we need the people on the ground to service the industries and of course to build on new infrastructures and the like.
And I'd just say, Barbara, I think the airport runway is a good example to me. We're actually through Downer and also through GHD, we've actually got a very high quality, highly built, highly spec runway there. And what's been excellent is to see the use of local staff and local employees who have actually gained those skills and are continuing to work and will go on and work in other infrastructure projects as a result. So I think when we are doing infrastructure projects, it's a great opportunity to make sure that we are enrolling local people and building capability at the same time, which only just serves to get a rolling maul on with respect to capability around how to manage infrastructure going forward as well.
But it's the development of tourism, isn't it? So there needs to be a workforce to service.
Yeah, and I think again, I met a number of people last night at the function who. I was thinking about one young woman who'd been back here 5 weeks and was making a big contribution, going to make a big contribution to healthcare in this country. And I think that's the sort of thing that we want to see better. But of course, building out good infrastructure, making sure there's a really attractive tourism proposition that does attract workforce back home here as well.
Prime Minister, just in terms of the funding today, 21 million, I think you said it was. Is this an attempt to curtail any sort of influence that China may have in Niue? And Premier, just for you, do you feel any type of pressure either way from New Zealand or China, and can you be friends with both?
There's no pressure here. New Zealand is Niue's traditional partner. We only just strengthened it again this morning and re-emphasise on that. China, like any other partner, is friends of Niue. Niue is friends to everyone. But Niue does know and hold steadfast its relationship with New Zealand. And no one can ever come between that. And it's simple as that. It's not only China. If we talk about China in particular, there's all other partners as well that has also contributed, just like how they contributed to other countries around the region. So for us, and we appreciate those relationships, because some of those support enables some of the things that we really wanted to do. We can't keep relying on our great partner New Zealand to do everything for us. So that is how all those other partnerships have been developed.
Yeah. And I'd just say, with respect to the renewables project, what Premier and I talked about this morning was a similar conversation we're having at home in New Zealand, is the importance of having an infrastructure pipeline. And so having seen, actually the runway, for example, with good fencing, with 24/7 lighting, with a good terminal set up there, and as an enabler for what that can mean in terms of building tourism, the tourism proposition, coupled with the Matavai Resort, you can kind of see how that actually starts to build out a sector in the economy. And the same thing is here, that when you can move electricity to 80% renewables, and hopefully have that on stream from the beginning of at the end of 2025. That's a pretty good transition that actually gives Niue a good long-term platform to actually continue to grow its economy. So for us, it was a logical project for us. We fund it out of our climate component of our development contribution budget. And as I said, I think contractors are going to get signed, we'll go through a process in July. We'll have construction commence in the beginning, in the first quarter of next year, and commissioning at the end of the year. So for me, that's a good example of where we're partnering well together to say, hey, listen, what's the most pressing infrastructure challenge and or need that would make the most amount of difference, the most amount of people in the fastest amount of time. And I think that's the way we're thinking about infrastructure development back home in New Zealand, and clearly the Premier is thinking about it in the same way here. So I'm really proud to be able to do that partnership.
Premier, you've invested in tourism a lot recently. What are the next steps? And in particular, given New Zealand and Niue have the same passports, would passport-free travel help Niue's tourism? And Prime Minister, do you think that could be an option?
For New Zealanders to Niue, well, something that we happily can look at, of course. I mean, look, we, as I mentioned earlier, we truly have the sense that I have this morning, that warm feeling about how we're going to move forward. And I think these are exciting times in our leadership, what we can do to improve such thing as that. Not only that, how we can connect much closer our two communities together. And I think it makes sense too, right? In order, instead of, but we should have that freely sort of movements between Niue and New Zealand. I think it's something to look at.
No, I just say, look, I mean, we are very determined to make sure we have a great trusted partnership and a great friendship between the two of us. And, we already have great facilitation between the two countries, as you well understand. The key thing is we're focused on the future. We're focused on growth, and both of us as leaders with our respective countries. And whatever we can do to facilitate that, we'll continue to explore. But at this point, it wasn't a specific conversation we had. We had a different, a conversation around how we want the relationship to be going forward as new leaders, and how we want to build out infrastructure and development here as well. So that was a real focus. Great. Well, can I say thank you again? Thanks for joining us on the trip. It's been great. And thank you, Premier, again for the hospitality. It's just been a standout, and we've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.